Hello everybody, Darcy Marler here, and today we're going to do another Students Take an Action video. Today I'd like you to meet Bennet Sebastian of Orlando, Florida. So what's cool about doing these Student Taking Action videos, I'm noticing that the students are taking what I teach and tweaking it a bit, personalizing it, so making their own path that's kind of unique and different to them. I find that really interesting. So what Bennet does is he's more commercial than residential. And so what he's doing is taking some of my teachings and he's kind of morphing it into his background. Let me give you an example. So what he does is he builds 3,000 to 5,000 square foot doctor's offices. So one of the things we teach in the course is that just move the needle. You don't have to do the entire process yourself. So someone else is taking the raw land and getting the proper zoning for it. Somebody else is putting utilities in to get these things pad ready. So then what Bennet does is he takes these pads, he buys them, gets his architect to design the actual doctor's office, get that building permit approved, and then sells that to an actual doctor. And he's doing really well at that, as we'll see. But what's really cool is he actually will build the finished doctor's office as well, but the doctor finances that. So he's saving all that finance money over there, which is very cool. And then the other thing we teach in the course is, can you partner with the seller? And he's doing that as well. He's getting seller financing on the buy side, saving all kinds of money on that as well. So again, tweaking it to make this path his own. So like this video, subscribe to my channel, and if you want to be part of this real estate development group, part of this network that's changing and transforming my students' lives, my contact information is on the screen. Reach out. I'd love to talk to you about your financial future. So here we go. Bennet Sebastian of Orlando, Florida. Hello, Bennet. Great to see you. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Darcy. How are you?
Good. So you're a student of the course, so why don't you introduce yourself a bit and give us a little background to what you were doing prior to the course?
Sure. My name is Bennet Sebastian. I am a general contractor down in Orlando, Florida. I have also been on the real estate side as a broker. So between my real estate and construction side, I've been in the business for about 30 years. And I went out on my own about 3 years ago. So I'm 3 years into my solo journey now.
And how are you finding that?
It's very interesting. It's didn't come quickly, but it has come. The first couple of years were a little slow. Started during the middle of the pandemic, so it was an uphill battle on many fronts. Yeah, it took me a little while, and I started small with a little $20,000 project here, $50,000 project there. It's kind of embarrassing how little I made the first couple of years, but last year it was about a 500% increase over what I did the second year. So, and this year is looking like it'll be at least a 200 to 300% increase from last year. So.
Excellent. Good. So what kind of stuff was that? What kind of flips and rentals, or what kind of stuff are you into?
I've done flips, fix and flips on the commercial side, small commercial condos, basically what they were, anywhere from 1,500 square feet to 3,000 square feet. And so I fixed and flipped 6 of them, kept the 7th one, which I still own 10 years later, and it's cash flowing fantastic. But I sold the other ones. Just broke ground on my first ground up building about 2 weeks ago, and so we're under construction. It just came from there. They're just finished their underground plumbing, and I've got a few more in the works.
So that's interesting. This one is a couple weeks in. What are you building there? What are you doing?
What I have done over the last year is I've acquired pad ready sites. Someone else has already done the entitlement, someone else has already done the site work and infrastructure and brought utilities and parceled off the pads. And I have assembled 6 of those pads over the last year, just closed on 2 more last week. And what I'm doing, and they're all essentially going to be medical office buildings, or they could be professional office buildings, but I'm really kind of targeting the medical. They're anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 square feet buildings. And what I do is I still have to go through a fairly lengthy permitting process. Even though the pad has already been built, I still have to go through a civil package and put together all the stuff that the municipalities want for a civil package. Then I take it through permitting. While I'm in permitting, I have a rendering that's done, and I use that in my marketing piece. And I try to find a buyer for the building by the time my permit's ready, basically. So that's what we did. That's what I did on the building that we've got now. It's a mental health practice. So what happens is they close on the lot, and I'm not sure how it works with home builders, but they close on the lot. I make most of my development profit at the sale of the lot, and then simultaneously their lender funds the construction of the building, and they're entering into a contract with me during the due diligence phase. They're entering into a contract with me to build the building. And as a general contractor, I can earn money on the construction of the building. And so there's no development profit on the construction portion. That development profit is built into the land sale.
Just to clarify, so these are commercial, not residential. So someone's done the entitlement, as you said. Somebody's put the pipe in the ground and got it pad ready. And now you've taken it and you've got the actual architectural drawings done. And you sold that, and that's where you're saying the profit is. And then you'll still build, but there's less profit at that point. So the kind of the uplift is getting the architectural designs to a point where it's basically shovel ready for someone who wants to come in.
Yeah, and then also, knowing what it's going to cost and being able to put that out on the market. And I honestly, I got lucky because I was very conservative in my estimates for the initial pricing of these buildings, and I got one sold, and then I really tightened up my numbers and found out that I had way more fluff in this thing that I needed to have. I'm not going to tell the buyer that, but I'm able to come down on my pricing, unfortunately, and still, do pretty good. So, yeah. So being able to understand the price, understand how long it's going to take to build, being able to show a potential buyer what the building's going to look like, and then we also work with the buyer on designing their layout. So we, customize the layout to their needs.
That's exceptional. I love that. That's really cool. So let's take you back in time to when you kind of first joined the course. What were you thinking then? What was kind of your decision to join? What were you hoping to learn? What was kind of missing from your existing investment or knowledge base at that time? What were you thinking?
So as I mentioned, when I went out on my own, I was cutting my teeth on the only thing I knew, which was tenant improvements. I didn't have any experience with ground up. So I found your book. You have a couple of books. I think there was one on new construction as a profitable investment. And I read it, and it was just a breath of fresh air to get practical information on the process. And I knew that I wanted to learn more from this author. And so I Googled you and found out that you had this program, and I would love to know that there was that training course available. And then you had another book, which I also had bought on land development as a profitable investment, I think it was. And so both the books, like I said, were just, you could tell it was from someone that's been there, done that, not somebody sitting in the ivory tower talking about it. So that was what I was missing.
So you're commercial again, and the course is mostly residential, so that's fine. But are you finding kind of practical applications from the course that you can take into the commercial world?
Absolutely. So just what I'm doing is pseudo residential construction, in that my buildings that I'm building, they're, in Florida, most of our houses are block construction on the outside and wood frame on the inside and wood trusses, shingle roofs. Well, that's exactly what I'm building with these commercial properties. They look like pseudo residential properties. And so, kind of like a lot of fix and flippers, I kind of moved from doing interior renovations to, maybe buying a lot that's already pretty much ready to go and building a building. And now where I'm going is I'm looking to develop my own parks, basically. So kind of going from a fix and flip to building a new house to building a subdivision. These aren't going to be huge. These are going to be probably 3 to 5 acre parcels. And I can get anywhere from probably 10 to 20 buildings of 2,000 to 3,000 square feet on there. And unlike your highly recommended suggestion of not developing and building the project, you said, do one or the other. I am going to be doing both, but the good thing is I don't invest any money in the construction of the buildings. That's 100% funded by the buyer and the lender. I just invest the money on the land, the entitlement work, and then the infrastructure work that has to get the pad ready. But what's happening is that I've got 6 parcels right now. They're in 3 different counties and 4 different jurisdictions. And I'm having to go through the learning curve of every jurisdiction just to get one little building built, and it's not very efficient. It's a good way to learn the information that I was missing.
Right.
But now I'm going to get maybe 1 or 2 more buildings started, and I'm already looking at land. Met with a broker yesterday who had a piece that was a little bit larger than I needed, but I know this is probably a year-long process from the time I find the property, get the entitlement work done, and get the site work done. So this is 2024 business that I'm trying to secure right now.
That's quite the growth. Good for you, man. Good for you. What? So there's 2 parts that I found. So let's dig into that a little bit. So as far as how do you find stuff? Like, what's your for the pads you've already got, and then going forward, how are you finding?
So about half the equity came from me, and the other half came from two passive investors. And there were clients of mine from my brokerage days, and then we're also doing. I've been able, fortunately, to not have to pay all cash for these lots. I've been able to get sellers to hold back a mortgage anywhere from 50 to 70%. So overall, my equity piece is probably 10–20% of the total value of all the properties that we picked up. So it's a combination of seller financing, investors, and myself.
Excellent. And then the actual build, as you said, was from the actual doctors or client group, whatever it's actually going to be.
Yeah.
The original locating of the lots and that, how are you finding them in the first place?
How am I finding them? We just use, kind of like the MLS. We have CoStar, LoopNet, Crexy. We don't have one source like the MLS that has all the information. So different websites have different information. So I pretty much found everything online.
Okay. So a lot of lots of stuff in the course there. So that control of the land without buying it, you're right on in that. You got seller financing going good. There's also the piece of I was talking about moving the needle. So there's lots of different ways to do it, and you've kind of found your niche and your little chunk of the world that you're going hard on. So that's excellent.
We'll see. Who knows? A year from now, who knows? I have a vision, but I had a vision 6 months ago that I was going to focus on residential, and I was sure that I was going to focus on residential. I made an investment in it, and time has proven that that's not the direction I wanted to go, and time might prove that this isn't the direction I want to go. But right now, it looks like a viable direction, and I don't mind taking a gamble and seeing if it's viable. And I'm not. It's not a blind risk. I'm definitely doing my due diligence. There's a competitor. I won't name, but they're in a different market, and they've done this repeatedly in their markets, like 50 times. And each of their parks have anywhere from 5 to 30 buildings in them. And so what I'm doing right now is studying each of those parks and looking at the demographics around those parks, looking at the daily traffic in front of those parks, and making sure I boil it down to the fundamentals that all these successful parks have in common, so that when I evaluate lots, I'm going to do those same studies and say, hey, does it meet these same criteria? If so, then it's a go. If not, it may look good on paper in terms of the price, but it's not going to work because of the demographics and traffic.
Yeah, and we get into that a lot too, the demographics and job, and what is the area in need, and becoming community experts. So it's like you talked before, you're dealing in different areas. That's one thing you kind of learn over time, is that you find one that's better to work with than others. And I understand the quirks of that city council or those administrative groups, and now I'm going to kind of, so that's exactly.
And I'm looking for the same thing that any home builder would be looking for, is how many people are moving into the area, what's their income, because commercial follows residential, so so I'm looking at the same stuff that most of your other members are looking at.
So I guess what's a couple just last question here. So what's most excited for you about the future? What's the future looking like for you over the next couple of years?
I'm excited in that my trajectory has really put me in a place that I was only dreaming of 3 years ago. And I'm excited that, if I continue at this trajectory, where could I be in 3 years? So continuing to learn, absorb, take action, learn from mistakes, and keep pressing forward.
Good. Any last words before we wind it up here?
I mean, I haven't made it to the top of the mountain yet, but I think I'm a pretty good example of, you can do it. I didn't have this experience prior to, taking your course, and yeah, it's doable. And you've preached that to people, and it is in fact doable.
I've got to say, I'm really pleased with your progress. I've been watching you from the beginning there, so you're doing really, really good. I'm very, very pleased for you. I think the way you're doing it, very detailed and very, taking that extra time to make sure the due diligence is there, and I really like. It's cautious, but still, let's say, aggressively conscious.
Yeah, because the next move is going to require a lot more equity. Right now, I'm picking up these lots for a couple $100,000, but if I go out and buy a 5-acre tract, I'm looking at probably a minimum of $2 million, and then probably another $1.5 million to $2 million in site work that has to go in. So this is and I'm not going to get financing for any of it. So no lender's going to lend on raw land development that I know of in commercial. So I'm looking at raising a good $3 to $4 million. So it's going to require that I have all my I's dotted and T's crossed before I go out and try to raise that kind of money.
But the other part of that too is that now that you've done several of these smaller sites, now that speaks to your knowledge and experience too. And that
for sure. Yeah, and I'm in no rush to move fast on to that scale. I do want to get a few of these buildings done and prove the concept, and then it makes it a little more compelling to investors.
I always say nothing wrong with hitting a few singles. You don't always have to go for the home run. So a few singles in yourself first. Yeah, good. Yeah. Thank you very much, Bennet. This has been amazing, and continued success. I'm looking forward to seeing what the future is going to hold for you.
Thanks, Darcy. I appreciate all the information you've shared with us.
That was pretty interesting, huh? Students taking action. So if you want to be part of my real estate development course and maybe start your own transformation, maybe you're bored or tired of the existing flip or rental world, maybe you're feeling stuck or frustrated that you're not moving forward on your real estate investing goals and you want to try something different, well then maybe real estate development could be the option and the future for you. So my contact information is on the screen. I invite you to reach out. Let's have a talk about your financial future.